everybody. This is Maple with me, and on the floor, probably gonna join us soon, is my other cat, Liza. If you've been following my video series here, this is the third and final part in a series on multi-digit by one-digit multiplication that I have been making. And if you watched my last video, you got to see a good look at Liza's face at the 9:20 mark. Nice. I think Liza's coming over to join us. Hey, Liza, this is Liza. So in this video, I'm going to show what I now call the regroup carryover method or the old school method. And then I'm going to give a little bit of basically some commentary representing why many fourth grade curriculums, not all, but many math curriculums have switched to the methods I showed in my previous two videos, and also why I'm a big fan of those newer methods. And this is just, I want to just have a disclaimer. That is representing my personal opinion on what I'm seeing in the classroom and have seen in the classroom using these methods. You can agree or disagree with them. Okay, and that is fine. So anyway, if you are new to this video, I did have two other videos. I'll post links to them below. First one was about multi-digit multiplication using area model method, and the second one was multi-digit multiplication using partial products. Now I'm going to show what I now call the old school method or the regroup carryover method. And those of you with young children who maybe those two methods that I previously taught were new to you, this is probably more the method that you learned. I'm going to do a problem, I'm going to explain the steps, then I'm going to explain why, with a lot of the new books based on Common Core Math, we switched to the other two methods I showed, and why I'm a big advocate for those two new methods, at least at the younger grades. So let's do a two-digit number. Let's do 97 times 8. We're going to do this using the more old school method. And those of you who are about my age will remember this. 7 times 8 is 56. Put 6 down here. Carry the 5 up here, so that's 5/10. Then you think 9 times 8 is 72. Add the 5 to get 776. Now, at first glance, many people will say, well, why are you no longer promoting this method? Now, I teach this like a bonus lesson to my students to kind of show them this is how I learned to multiply and how parents may have learned to multiply or grandparents learned to multiply. And it never fails. It's just usually most of the students just look at me like almost in horror. Because it is very confusing to younger students who are still grasping the concepts of multiplication. Now, I still have fourth graders who come in most of the other facts, but I'll still have a few that if you ask them 3 times 7, they have to draw the arrays or they have to count their facts in their heads to get to 21. So this is really more for more advanced students. There's nothing wrong with it, but here's where students often get tripped up. I'm going to show you how we would do the same problem using partial products. Okay, so if we were doing this with partial products, we would think, and I know my marker's done again, sorry about that. 7 times 8 is 56. Now we multiply by the number in the tens place. We put our 0 down here, it's multiple 10. We think 720, and then we add the two together. Now, the reason that many fourth grade math curriculums have switched more to methods like this in the area model method versus this is because this is how it works. First, we're having the kids multiply, then we're having them add. Over here, let's think about this for a second. You just learned your multiplication facts last year. You're just getting the grasp that 7 times 8 is 56. And you're doing all this. Now all of a sudden I'm asking you to multiply and then add, and you're probably thinking to yourself, wait a minute, why am I adding this 5 instead of multiplying this 5? I'm doing multiplication. So you're asking the students to kind of switch gears in the middle of the problem, and it gets very confusing. Over here, we're multiplying first and then we are adding. Also, for students who might struggle and might have to kind of do the facts a little slower in their head, doing it step by step this way can be less confusing to them than doing this method here. And I apologize for the shaky camera. I am fine. There was no earthquake hidden. And it's just my cat Liza running across the table. Liza, leave your sister alone. Excuse me for a moment. Liza, leave your sister alone. Here, come sit over here by mommy. Leave Maple alone. Okay, good. So My thoughts is that I'm not necessarily against the old school method, but I remember as a student making that leap from third grade, where I was pretty much just reciting and memorize facts, to having to do a lot more steps in my head. Liza just knocked my eraser off the table. Hey, come here. Why don't you sit on mom's lap? You can help her do the video. Come on, come here, baby. Come here. Okay. So anyway, as I was saying, um, one of the reasons I am a big advocate for the newer methods, such as this and area model method, is I can remember as a student in fourth grade being very frustrated because the year before, all I really had to do was recite multiplication facts. And all of a sudden, they're expecting me to not just multiply, not just carry over, but also multiply and add in my head. 'Cause think about it. You're asking your students to do these, you're basically asking your students to do this multiplication fact 9 times 8 and add it to the 5 10s here in their head. It can, and again, some students can handle it right away. It's in my experience, the most students, at least to begin the fourth grade, that's a lot for them to handle. So that's why I always start off with the area model method. And I'll just quickly demonstrate how we would solve this with the area model method. I'm going to raise my partial products here. That's why I start off with, I have to get a new marker. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I have to get a new marker. Um, but that's why I start off with the area model method before I move into partial products. See if I can go over that 8. What I like about the area model method is we can choose the order we do it in. Kids can choose what order they do the multiplication in, what order they add the numbers up in, and it gets them the same answer. And my marker is really funny. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But this is the area model method. I know it's kind of hard to see because it's kind of like my marker's dying on me. But, and again, let's do an old school. Let's use old school math to do 952 times 7. So once again, we do think 7 times 4 is 14. We carry over the 1 to get 1/10s. Then we think 5 times 7 is 35, add the 1. Remember, we're doing all this in our heads. Put the 6 down here, put the 3 up here. Then we think 9 times 7 is 63 and add the 3 to it. And again, doing all this in our heads. It's 6,664. And I'm sorry, my marker's dying. And again, you have to remember that we're asking students who just the year before learned multiplication facts to do all that in their heads. And I have had some fourth graders who could do that method. And when I taught as a bonus lesson on the test, they asked if they could use it. Now, our tests for certain questions will say use area model method, and some will say partial products, and some will say choose a method you'd like. And I tell them only in certain questions, then yes. But in the past few years, the majority of my students, they enjoyed learning it. They didn't want to use it in my classroom, and that was okay. I told them to stick with the area model and partial products, and those were the two methods they were required to learn in my classroom. And like I said, I can understand at first glance why many parents, maybe even some educators, question why are we doing this? It seems like more work. The reason is because students have not grasped those abstract concepts where they can master doing all that in their heads. Like I said, there are still some fourth graders that come in having to draw arrays to do some of their facts, or they still got to kind of, they can't tell you in a snap that 8 times 9 is 72. They still got to do the facts in their heads to get to it. So to ask them to do those extra steps in their heads can be very confusing for a child. That's why I'm a big advocate of the partial products and the area model methods for fourth grade math, because I just feel that it goes into the concept of the numbers. It breaks it down step by step to make it easier for the students to get to the answer for the question. And I find that even with my advanced students, it's better to start off with the area model, move into the partial products, and then if they do get the old school regroup carryover method, as I call that method, Great. Not all of them do. Some of them do, but not all of them do, and that's fine. So again, that is a demonstration of the past method that we used to do multiplication with. Nowadays, many schools have switched over to the Common Core curriculum, which, in my opinion, helps students grasp the concept of numbers better. And I feel it does lay a better foundation for them at this age. Like I said, at this age, it's still very hard to give them shortcuts. They're still grasping their abstract concepts. They really need things to be a little bit more concrete for them. Hence why there's so much focus on the value of the numbers and the steps involved in solving the problems. Okay, so this concludes my three-part series on multi-digit by one-digit multiplication. I went over area model method, partial product method, just did a brief review of the old school regroup carryover method and my thoughts on all three methods. I will be doing a series probably starting next week with or the week after next with multi-digit by two-digit multiplication using area model and partial product. And once again, I'll most likely do a third video describing the old school method and why, as an educator, why I personally prefer the newer methods that we are now teaching in our classrooms. Okay, and again, that is my opinion. Not everyone is going to agree with it, and that is fine. This is just what I have seen as a teacher in a fourth grade classroom, what I've seen that works for my students. Your results in your classroom or at your home might be a little bit different. Okay, Liza, do you want to say goodbye? My cat's now sitting on my feet looking up at me. Okay, and I promise I will try to make sure my cats have cameos in future videos. Okay, until then, thank you so much for watching and subscribing, and have a great day. Bye.